The story of Joseph, from dreams to destiny. Genesis 37:50. The story of Joseph is one of the most compelling narratives in the Bible, a timeless tale of betrayal, resilience, and divine providence. This is the true account of how God took a young dreamer from the pit of despair to the pinnacle of power, using every circumstance to fulfill a greater purpose. Joseph, at 17, was shepherding with his brothers when he brought a bad report about them to their father Jacob. As the son of Jacob's old age, born to Rachel, Joseph was dearly loved, and Jacob made him a richly ornamented robe. When Joseph's brothers saw their father's favoritism, they hated him. Their resentment grew when Joseph shared his dreams, first of sheaves of grain bowing to his sheaf, then of the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him. Even Jacob rebuked him, though he kept the matter in mind. The breaking point came when Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers at Shechem. Seeing him approach, they plotted to kill him. Reuben intervened, suggesting they throw him into a pit instead, planning to rescue him later. When Joseph arrived, they stripped him of his robe and cast him into an empty cistern. As they ate, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders appeared. Judah proposed selling Joseph rather than killing him. For 20 shekels of silver, Joseph was handed over to the Midianites, who took him to Egypt. The brothers dipped Joseph's robe in goat's blood and presented it to Jacob, who mourned bitterly, believing his son was dead. The faithful servant. Genesis 39. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. Though a slave, the Lord was with Joseph, and he found favor in Potiphar's eyes. Soon, Potiphar put Joseph in charge of his entire household. When Potiphar's wife repeatedly tried to seduce Joseph, he refused, saying, "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" One day, she caught him by his cloak and demanded he sleep with her. Joseph fled, leaving his garment behind. Furious at being rejected, Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of assault. Potiphar had Joseph thrown into the royal prison. Even there, the Lord showed Joseph kindness, and the warden soon put him in charge of all the prisoners. The forgotten interpreter. Genesis 40:41. In prison, Joseph met Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, who each had disturbing dreams. Joseph interpreted them. The cupbearer would be restored to his position in 3 days, while the baker would be executed. Both prophecies came true, but the cupbearer forgot Joseph. 2 years later, Pharaoh had troubling dreams, 7 lean cows devouring 7 fat cows, and 7 withered heads of grain swallowing 7 healthy ones. When no one could interpret them, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Brought before Pharaoh, Joseph gave God the credit. "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." He explained the dreams meant 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. Joseph advised storing grain during the plentiful years. Impressed, Pharaoh appointed Joseph as second in command over Egypt, giving him his signet ring and fine linen. At 30 years old, Joseph oversaw the food storage program throughout the land. When famine struck Canaan, Jacob sent 10 sons to Egypt for grain. Joseph recognized them immediately, but concealed his identity. He accused them of being spies, and demanded they bring their youngest brother Benjamin to prove their honesty. Keeping Simeon as collateral, Joseph sent the others back with grain but had their silver secretly returned. When they returned with Benjamin, Joseph was overcome with emotion but maintained his disguise. After testing them further, he could no longer control himself, and revealed his identity. "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" His brothers were terrified, but Joseph comforted them. "Do not be distressed. It was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." He urged them to bring Jacob to Egypt, where they would be provided for during the remaining famine years. Jacob's family settled in Goshen, where Joseph cared for them. When Jacob was near death, he blessed Joseph's sons Ephraim and Manasseh, deliberately crossing his hands to give the greater blessing to the younger. Before dying at 147 years old, Jacob made Joseph promise to bury him in Canaan. After mourning, Joseph and his brothers fulfilled this request with a great procession to Machpelah. After Jacob's death, the brothers feared Joseph would take revenge, but Joseph reassured them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph lived to 110, seeing his great-grandchildren. Before dying, he told his brothers, "God will surely come to your aid, and take you up out of this land to the land he promised." He made them swear to carry his bones back to Canaan when they left Egypt. Joseph's life demonstrates how God can redeem even the most painful circumstances for his greater plan. Through slavery, false accusations, and imprisonment, Joseph remained faithful, and God elevated him to save nations. His story reminds us that what others mean for evil, God can use for good when we trust in his sovereign purpose. The account ends with Joseph's bones remaining in Egypt, a silent promise that God would one day fulfill his covenant with Abraham's descendants. Centuries later, Moses would honor this pledge during the Exodus, Exodus 13:19, completing Joseph's remarkable story of faith and providence.